With that being said, let's get to it. All right, so first thing you want to do is you want to measure your closet. You want to see how much material you want, how much material you need, and what you really want to do in your closet. So what we're going to do is we're only going to install 3 shelves wall to wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out where I think I want them and make sure they fit what I'm going to put on them. That's key. You got to make sure you understand what you're putting on the shelves before you build the shelves. Imagine building shelves for shoes and the shoes can't fit on the shelves. How stupid is that? What's the point? So make sure you understand what you're putting on the shelves before you put them in, because then you're going to be wasting your time if you don't. So now I'm just going to clean out everything that we don't need. So we're going to just take our final dimensions to make sure we want everything where it is. The way I'm building these shelves are, they're going to have a cleat against the wall, and the shelf is actually going to sit on the cleat. The cleat will run on 3 sides of the wall. So right now I'm just marking out where the top of the cleat is going to be. So I like doing this, marking everything out at once, so it's pretty much seamless after that. Everything's already figured out. So now we'll just make sure all 3 shelves are marked out, so we can just pretty much rock with this. Like I said, we're going to do this on 3 sides of the wall. We're going to do it on the left side, the back wall, and the right side. So mark it out once, get it over with. You don't have to go back 4 times to do it, or 3 times in this case. You got 3 shelves. So now you're ready to cut the cleat. So we've measured the wall and we know the size of our cleat. We're going to just measure out the wood so we can prepare to cut. Once again, I do everything at once because it makes it very seamless. You don't have to go back 4 times. One process, one step at a time, which makes everything a lot faster. So we'll cut everything at once. We'll go up there, install everything at once. It's a better process. When you start doing stuff 3 or 4 times, it's easier just to clump it all together, figure it out all at once, and then move forward. So we're getting ready to cut. I'm using a circular saw for this, but you could use a chop saw. I just didn't want to bring my chop saw to my friend's house because it was big and bulky, and I figured I could just cut everything with a circular saw. So I'm using a circular saw, and I'm using my triangle as a guide. So relatively simple idea. I know a lot of people probably have the same way of standard cutting. So we're just going to cut these up and move forward. Now, as you can see, these are the longer ones, so this is the back wall. So now we're going to cut the side walls. Now, you got to remember, it's twice as many because there's 2 sides. So we're going to cut 6 of these. What I like to do, the side walls, cleats, I like to make them a little shorter than the actual depth of the shelf. So for instance, if we have a 16-inch shelf, I like to make them 14 inches. I like to do that because making them short helps them hide the cleat from looking at the shelves directly. You can't hide them completely, but it helps. You can even cut the cleat at an angle if you want to help it hide it even more. I'm going to cut these last few pieces and then we'll be ready for install. So I don't know if you noticed that, but they look like they're already painted. I pre-painted them before coming here, and throughout the video I'll show you how to paint and prep this wood. All right, so now we're ready to install the cleat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to install all the back pieces first, and then I'm going to install the sides. So what you want to do is you want to make sure everything's 100% level here. This is going to be key because if these are not level, your shelves are not going to be level. So remember, I used a level to make my marks, which once again, I told you to do this at the beginning. It helps it very seamless. So now I could just throw these up, pop, 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 done. So once I follow my line, make sure everything's all lined up, I'll nail it in with a nail gun just to temporarily hold it. And what we're going to do is we're going to wind up screwing all these in later. I like using screws because depending on what they put on it, could be a little heavy. Also, since we're only tacking in the cleat, we want to make sure everything's leveled, and this is a great opportunity to kind of make sure everything is 100%. So since they're only tacked, we could just kind of nudge the wood, maybe with a hammer, or kind of push it down a little bit or up if it needs to. So going to be the same process for the next two. It's relatively simple. Once you really get going, you can kind of get the rhythm of it and figure out on one, and the other two comes pretty much natural at that point. So let me just finish this all up. Remember to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button to get all my latest content. Now, since we got all the back cleats up, now we're going to install the sides. Same process. We're going to make sure we're going to tack everything up, make sure everything's all level. At this point, if you can't do this, then you probably shouldn't be doing this job. So remember we said we're going to screw this in. So I'm using 2.5-inch construction screws. We're going to screw in all the cleats. Now, what you want to do is you want to pre-drill each hole before installing the screw. What this does, it helps the wood from not splitting. So in order to find the right bit, I like to put the screw right next to the bit to see which one will work. So what you're really looking for is you're looking for the diameter of the drill bit that's smaller than the screw diameter. Because remember, you want to make sure it's tight and it's fastened in. So something too big, the screw really doesn't work and it'll be a complete waste. Now all these screws have to hit studs. So I don't know if you remember one of my other videos on how to hang the TV. We show you how to find a stud. I'll leave that link in the description. I'll also post it and link it onto this video. So I'm going to drill all my pilot holes at once, and then I'm going to screw it in. I'm not going to show you every hole I drill, and I'm not going to show you me installing screws, because at this point, you guys should be able to do this on your own. It's like, one day you're going to fly by yourself and figure it out. All right, so since all the screws are in and everything's secure, now we're going to measure for the shelves. I measure each area for the shelf just in case the wall's a little crooked. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure the wall, and then we're going to subtract 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch off the shelf, just because, so we could slide it in nice and easy. If you didn't do that, it would be kind of tough. So earlier in the video, I told you I was going to show you how to paint these shelves. So here it is. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sand them down. I like using 220 grit sandpaper. You don't need it any more finer or coarser than that, because this is quality grade cabinet grade plywood. It's grade B. It's pretty good stuff. So you don't need to do like a deep sanding. Ultimately what I'm doing is I'm just getting all the rough parts out. When I cut it, it's splintered a little bit, so I'm going to just pretty much get all that stuff out. So actually what I did was I had Home Depot cut this for me, so it's a little life hack that you don't have to go too crazy. You can have your department store cut all this stuff if you need be. Pretty convenient. I didn't have to pull out my tools, which was nice. So and it probably took me about another 2 more minutes in the store, so it was relatively easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to sand both sides, sand all the edges. What I like to do is at the edge of the board, I like to bevel it a little bit so it's not too hard. Also helps with all the splintering to come off a lot easier. And what I mean about beveling is I hold the sander about 45 degrees from the actual corner of the wood, and what it does, it helps it really make it nice and smooth. It actually works out better because you don't split at the end. So I'm just finished sanding the last board. So as you can see, they're a lot longer than what we actually can install. So what I do is I pretty much just paint everything, prep everything, and I'll just cut it on site. You'll see that later. So these pieces are like a 1x2 pine boards, premium prime actually. These are going to be the face of the actual plywood. As you can see the plywood, you can see the layers on the side. So this will help cover that up. Also, like again, you'll sand everything with 220 grit all sides, and then we're going to prep this for paint, and we're going to paint this, and same process. We're going to cut everything out in the field. It's a lot easier just prepping everything at home and then bringing it out there. One, convenience my own house. Two, I have everything I need if I ever need anything else. And you want to get in and out as soon as possible. That's why I do everything at the house. All right, so now we're up to painting. What I like to use is cabinet and trim enamel paint. Cabinet trim and paint trim is a little bit more resilient to scratching and scuffing. You should really use a high grade type of paint. You shouldn't really stay away from like that wall paint. That wall paint doesn't really work as well. Try to stick with the high quality paint. It's the best stuff. So after you dust off all your shelves, now it's ready for paint. What I like to do is like to go with the grain when I paint. I feel like that it adheres and it gets into the grooves a lot easier if you just go with the grain. We'll go up and down. We'll probably do 2 coats of white paint on both sides just to make sure that we got everything. Since it's bare wood, the paint will be absorbed into the wood, and it's a natural process. I'm not using a primer on this, but you just put a few coats of paint on it and you'll be fine. Painting these boards will literally take you no time. I think it took me all about 5 minutes to paint all 3 on one side. It was a nice day when I painted these, so they dried relatively fast. I think it took about an hour and a half to dry, and I wound up putting another coat on pretty soon after. Now, if you're planning on outside, make sure the weather's good, because you're going to be leaving them out for a little bit, and also if it's too humid, the paint's going to take forever to dry. So I would recommend to do it inside if it's going to be humid out, or you could just wait for a good day. So once I finish applying the paint with the roller, I like using a brush and brush over it. I actually like the brush lines opposed to the roller. I think it looks better, but it's not necessary to do. I mean, if I had a spray gun, I'd rather spray everything, but I don't have that. But I'll leave it up to you, whatever you want. But just remember, put your time and effort into it. You want to make things look good, even though it is a closet. Now I'll do this in between coats. The first coat get brushed on, and then the second coat will get brushed on as well. Also, what I like to do is I like to sand it between coats. 220 grit is perfectly fine. It helps you knock down anything that kind of raises. So this is what it looks like. The left side is rolled and the right side is brushed. So you guys make your decision on which one you like better. All right, that's enough with paint. Let's get back to business here. So we measured our shelves, each individual ones. Now we're going to mark it on the board. Now, thank God I measured each one, because I was off about 1/8 of an inch on the last one. And could you imagine if I cut that and it was short? Oh, unbelievable. It would have been a disaster. Now what I'll do is I'll get my straight edge or my level, and I'll draw a straight line. Now actually, if you notice, I'm taking out my tape measure again. I actually almost fucked up. Thank God I'm measuring again. I was about 2 inches off. So remember to check your cuts before you cut. Measure twice, cut once. You know that motto. So now I'm ready to score my line. There you go. Now what I'll do is I'll measure where I should place the level. Now if you notice on your circular saw, there's like a plate. The plate has a width to it. So one, I believe it's 1.5 inches on one side and 5 inches on the other. So I figured that out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clamp and I'll clamp down the level, and I'm going to use the level as my guide. Now I do have an actual straight edge for this. It's actually super good, but I completely forgot it. So I'm stuck using the old traditional way, which isn't too bad. There's only 3 cuts, so I'll do this all day. But if you're doing something that's really a pain in the ass, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe, I would definitely get this. It's actually amazing. I love it. It's actually inexpensive too. I think I paid like $50 for it. It's called a Boris straight edge. They come in 2 different sizes. I believe 50 inch and 100 inch. Obviously, 100-inch will be for an 8-foot board, and a 50-inch would be for the 4-foot side. So I got both. They're amazing. I'll leave a link in the description below. So now I'll make my cut, and it's relatively simple. One simple cut. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but there's kind of like a cool blade. It's a spider blade that's on my saw, and it's actually a 40-tooth carbine tip steel circular saw blade that's literally made for fine wood cutting. Now, you don't want to cut this with the framing blade, because if you go against the grain with this, you're going to wind up shredding everything. So now we're ready to install the shelves. So remember, they're cut a 1/4 inch smaller, so they should fit pretty easily. Now, also when you put them in, you want to make sure the gap is equal out on both sides, so you kind of don't see it. See, you can barely see it. So don't worry about it if you're 1/4 inch short. That's normal. You need to be able to take it in and out. And just think, if it was too tight, you'll be messing up the wall, so you're giving yourself more work anyway. So think of it, it's helping you. Hey, look at that. Everything fits like a glove. Amazing. So now we're going to get ready to cut the face. Now remember, measure each shelf because everything is different. Now, same concept as everything else. We're going to mark our line, and we're going to take a straight edge, and we're going to cut our face. Now, the face acts as two things. It helps you hide layers of the plywood, but it also helps it give it stability, because after a while, plywood likes to sag. So having a horizontal member helps it from sagging. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. Now I know what everybody's going to say. Oh, I'm not going to put anything heavy on it. I'm not going to put anything heavy on it. It doesn't matter. The weight of itself will make it sag eventually too, depending how long it is. So I just really recommend you doing this step. It also looks a lot nicer. I mean, come on. It's a few dollars more. You can stop being so fucking cheap. So eventually I'll get my act together and I'll finally cut this. There you go. About time. Jesus Christ. By the way, did I mention to hit that like, subscribe, and get that notification? Yeah, I know it's my 3rd time, but you ain't fucking listening. So how about you just do it? So now that we got everything cut up, now we're going to install the face. Now you just need your nail gun. It's relatively simple. Line it up and make sure it's 100% flat and flush with the top, because you remember, you want a continuous look. So, take your time with it. Sometimes it might be warped, so you got to force it at the end, but this is super easy. By the way, have I mentioned that these battery operated nail guns are amazing? So much better than walking around with a 10-pound compressor. So it's the same thing pretty much. I'm not going to bore you to death if I keep saying that. One day I'll finish. It seems like I like taking my time. I don't know why. Hurry up, pal. We got other projects to do here. All right, so that's done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take some wood filler and we're going to wood fill in all the holes, screw nails, and cracks and crevices if we have any. So this is a little tedious, but it's so simple. It's literally just take your finger, apply it to any hole or nail hole or whatnot you got. Apply a generous amount. You don't want to push it in too much, and you don't want to clean it up too much because you want it to dry. And we're gonna go back and pretty much lightly sand it off. It's super simple. This is a nice finishing touch. So now once everything dried, now you go back with 220. Yes, 220 is your friend. You'll have 220 grit sandpaper everywhere you go because it's the best. So you'll sand everywhere where you put the filler. It's super easy. If you put just enough, you could just literally take a few seconds each area, sand it off, and it gives a nice smooth finish. And you don't get to see any of the nail holes, which is nice, fantastic. It really brings everything, it pushes up to another level of finish actually, which is nice. So now that's all done. What you want to do is you want to wipe all the shelves clean, make sure there's no dust, and you're ready for touch-up paint. want to touch up all the areas that may have been damaged during the cutting process, or you want to touch up all the filler, touch up any bare wood. You want to make sure everything is completely covered. Probably have to do 2 coats of touch up, which isn't too bad because everything's already painted. So you're really only, going dabbing here and there. So, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Nice custom shelves for your walk-in closet. Relatively simple. Took me half a day to do. It'll probably take you the same. I think this came out nice. A little different than your standard traditional closet, which kind of nice. Something to show off to everybody. Remember to hit that like, subscribe, and get that notification. Thanks for watching my videos.